a strange situation to realize. Okay, welcome home to Eden. This is Eve Christoph, your Love Life Muse, bringing you back to the divine feminine and the radicalness of this. What it means is it's like turning everything upside down. Ooh. And it feels good though, because she is the one that we need to return to. So why is it that gentlemen, mainly white gentlemen, rich gentlemen, are asking African and Latino gentlemen to be the ones to be the lovers for their wives? Why would they do this? I was so blown away when I heard a millionaire friend of mine talking about this. And I was like, what? Why don't you want to be her lover? Why don't you want, why would you give up that job? And this millionaire friend of mine, let's call him Douglas. Douglas said, the thing is, I just find that these men are so beautiful and I love to watch. I love to watch them make love to my wife. And I learned from them. I was like, oh my God. I was like, well, wait a second. Like, if I were the woman, I want my husband to be doing the job. Like, I don't want somebody else who I don't know and love. He says, well, wait a second. We only, and he says, I'm part of this movement. He says, and we only bring in somebody we do know and love who is like part of our marriage, after a while. I'm like, oh my God, really? I'm like, Douglas, why? I mean, you, of all people, I said to him, you have so much skill with women, because he did. He was actually spent time himself as in the profession of the DACA, which actually sometimes it's not really a profession. Sometimes there's no money in it at all. He had done it for years for like 23 women, where he was the one who pleasured all these different women who, for various reasons, had no lovers, or their husbands weren't able to pleasure them or interested, or they were just single forever. And he had 23 different women that he would pleasure, mainly just with his hands and a lot of kissing. He said for him it was he kept his clothes on, and there was only 3 of those 23 women that were his actual full-on lovers. I'm like, Douglas, you have this amazing ability with women. You know how to pleasure the feminine. Why would you bring in somebody else? Why wouldn't it just be like you with your own wife, He says, well, look, Eve, you don't get it. He goes, this is not about my inadequacy. This is not about me uh, being less than these Black men and these Latino men that I have begged to be the ones to serve my wife. He says, it's actually about the experience that I can provide for my wife. See, I'm the provider of this extraordinary experience for her. And I'm saying, like, how are you the provider? It's the other guy doing this. He said, no, I'm allowing it. I'm saying, in our marriage, I want you to be totally fulfilled on many different levels. And I'm part of it, he said, because I get so much from watching these men and the happiness of my wife on more levels than what I can bring her. I said, see, there it is, what you can bring her. You think you can't do this. He said, it's about what I am doing. I'm providing an experience. Like, wow, blow me away. So I started talking to some friends about this, and I talked to a friend of mine from Brazil, and we know that the Brazilian culture has a lot more sexiness to it, for one thing, and more fluidity, perhaps. And he said, yeah, he was with his best friend, and they all kind of lived together, and his friend's girlfriend and him were having this wild time. But after a couple of hours, his best friend comes out of the room like all bedraggled. He's like, oh my God, I gave everything I had, and she's still going. Like, she is completely like at the peak, and she wants more, and I can't do any more. And he goes, hey buddy, will you just go in there and finish the job for me? Will you just help me out here? And And my friend from Brazil goes, sure. He goes in and he has this amazing time with his best friend's girlfriend, and she's all fulfilled, you know? And I've had other friends who've talked about their experiences with Brazilian women who were much more playful about the whole thing, much more embodied about this is really supposed to be juicy fun and pleasure, and it's when it's not marriage it's not, and when it is marriage it is, but in between there's all kinds of exploration. Or maybe their marriage includes what my millionaire friend's marriage includes, which is the invitation to a gentleman that is not like himself, that has qualities that he felt he would never have. And I was like, what kind of qualities? Like, what do you feel you're missing? You know, he said, I don't want to put myself down. He said, I love myself. My wife loves me. He said, it's just that some of my, my Latino and African friends are so beautiful, Eve. He says, I feel compersion. It's that word compersion. He says, I feel I am them when I watch them. I feel like I'm receiving some deep wisdom that I've always needed to be part of when I watch them. And so it's being in love with both my wife and my masculine counterpart, who is my opposite. And I'm just like, wow, there is so much of this world that we've forgotten, that we're exploring, that we're bringing back. And there may be many levels of healing and exploration that we are all part of as we bring back the divine feminine. And certainly the greatest fear, I think, of religion, when they try to control the women and they say that women's sexuality is evil and dirty and dangerous, and they want the men to hate the feminine so that they can dominate the men, because as soon as the men are really happy with the women, they don't really need the church much, it seems. But that's not true either, because we all do need church. Some kind of spiritual group that brings us back to gratefulness and service, But the fear of the church is that the women will be so wild, they'll be off the charts, they'll just want to sleep with everybody, and they won't, be controllable. And I guess I want to say, well, if it's true that women's libido is much higher, way underestimated, and that maybe the Jewish tradition is the only one that really gets it, because the Jewish tradition is all about, it's in the doctrine, you've got to pleasure your wife or it's not going to work out. Like, you have to really be there for her as a sexy guy. Like, you got to learn how to go down, you got to learn how to, use your kiss, really, you got to learn how to like match her emotionally and in incredible flirtation. Like, it's really in the Jewish tradition. And they can probably keep their wives pretty happy because the guys study it as part of their Quran, like part of their holy book. It's in there, like, you got to do this, guy. But the other religions, like Christianity, is like the opposite. It's like, repress her, ignore her, it's bad, do it as little as possible. It's evil. It's forbidden. And this way, because she'll go wild and then you won't be able to control her, know who your kids are. But if it was to go totally haywire and the women were to become wildly promiscuous, and the thing to realize about that is that all the cultures of the world that are most peaceful are ones where the women are most promiscuous. Take France, for example. I mean, they have a reputation for promiscuity and peaceful, like, luscious culture. I've never been there, so I don't want to say too much. But don't worry, because if the women are being more sexually active, not as devoted, it does mean that you'll get action too. Because that's true for all the women and all the men, and so there's just a lot more going on. And if you look at the bonobo monkeys from the book Sex at Dawn, where they say we actually come more from bonobo monkeys than chimps, which was repressed science. The bonobo monkeys are super sexy. They're like, they pleasure each other all the time, and it's not a bad thing. Because they're really, really peaceful, happy monkeys. And then if you look at the millions of years of us as hunters and gatherers, the only way we could have made it all that time is not by beating up the women and dragging them around by the hair and the chimp model. It would have been sharing everything, sharing food, sharing hugs, sharing child raising, and of course, sharing sexuality. So don't be afraid. But if you're a very monogamous person and you don't want to open up to any of these crazy things I'm talking about, that would be me. I don't want somebody else to be doing the job for me. I want my husband to be the freaking fantastic lover that takes me there. I want a sacred container that's not broken. I want to have a complete devotion that is experientially explorative enough that we can keep growing. So I'm not recommending this. What I'm saying instead is this the African American man's ultimate revenge, that the white guy millionaire in the end wants to hire him to pleasure his wife because he can't do it? I don't think so. I think actually it's a gigantic healing going on. I do. I think it's an amazing relationship being born between the men, of co-creating the ways to pleasure the feminine and learn together how it's done, how they can venture into this new territory of the sacred feminine. It's new but ancient, but it's new because it's been repressed for so long. Everybody's lost it. Like, the women don't even know what they're capable of, or what kind of 7 different G spots they have, and how to access those, and how to be pleasured in those ways. So the adventure of her discovering that with you, it may take some twists and turns to find your mentors, to find your demigods who you watch take the energy there, take her there, and you then, like, if you have a great singing teacher. I used to study singing, like 15 years of opera. I want to get back to it. But the way it really worked is that my teacher would always be incredibly talented, like an amazing singer. And if I had a teacher like that, it's like they gave it to me by osmosis. It's like just being in their proximity was a whole assimilation into me, like instantaneously, like on all levels. And I think that's sort of what's going on with this sexual revolution of learning about the feminine, is whoever catches on and can show this, art, gives it to those who witness it or participate all at once, like on all levels. And then they're different from then on. They're transfigured by this new level of serving the feminine divine. Oh, okay. Love life, darling. Love, love, love life. And channel that divine love through your sacred feminine, through your sacred masculine, bringing them together in yourself, both sides of you, so that you can accomplish a lot in this life while serving love. Okay. Love life.